Never seen a Marine as scary as this guy. Every day, he trained his body by running 3,000 kilometers. He tried to climb 10 hills before going back to sleep. He was also very good at long-range sniping. He was even more skilled at close-quarters combat. He could break into the enemy base alone, which had become a normal thing for him. Therefore, the division commander awarded him the honorable title. However, he soon realized that he was still just a docile dog in their eyes. That was why he came up with the idea of deserting and escaping from North Korea. Only a madman would dare to carry out such a plan. But even if he was shot, he was determined to carry out what he had chosen. His journey was a lone battle against an entire elite army. Could he realize his dream of conquering freedom? This soldier's name is Gil Nam. He is a sergeant in the North Korean army. Gil Nam has 10 years of combat experience. Every day, his superiors constantly propagate that the most important thing for a soldier is loyalty. If someone deserts, they will bring death to themselves. However, due to the unstable political situation and the unjust regime of the government, although Gil Nam is about to be discharged, in his mind there is always a strong thought, that is, he will do anything to escape this country. Since Gil Nam was a child, he dreamed of becoming an explorer. However, life is full of difficulties. Gil Nam's father was drafted into the army as a driver for his boss. But when Gil Nam's father died, he never returned home. Therefore, Gil Nam's mother had to support the family's finances alone, to the point that she overworked herself and passed away. But when Gil Nam was only 15 years old, he was called up by his country to join the army. He had to be a soldier in the most difficult place in Korea. However, he discovered that this place was adjacent to the border of South Korea. This was the country that could help Gil Nam gain freedom and do the things he dreamed of. So before leaving the army, he had to find a way to go there. Otherwise, he would not have a second chance. So every night when his roommates were fast asleep, Gil Nam would start to act. There was a barbed wire fence here. If anyone touched it, they would be electrocuted. Gil Nam had already dug a tunnel and covered it with dry leaves. As long as he went down there, no one would detect him. After Gil Nam went through the tunnel, he used a compass to determine the direction. Then he continued to run across a large hill without anything to guide him. Finally, Gil Nam reached the most dangerous place, which was the minefield. If he accidentally stepped on a mine, he would be blown to pieces. Therefore, Gil Nam had to be extremely careful when moving. Applying the knowledge he had learned in the army, Gil Nam used 4 safe positions to move. Then he used a sharp knife to determine the location of the mines. After that, Gil Nam planted dry branches and marked them on the map to create a safe path for escape. Suddenly, the timer rang. Immediately, Gil Nam had to run as fast as possible to return to the barracks. Otherwise, he would be detected. Only after Gil Nam was lying quietly on the bed did he breathe a sigh of relief. Just like that, Gil Nam had escaped from North Korea. No matter how tired Gil Nam was, he continued to act every night. As time went by, the path through the minefield became longer. Indeed, success never betrays effort. Finally, Gil Nam saw the light of free Korea. However, to get there, Gil Nam needed a long time. Therefore, tonight he could not act but had to return to wait for the opportunity. The next morning, Gil Nam and 3 friends went into the minefield area to patrol. At this moment, Dong Yuk suddenly said that there seemed to be a foul smell in the lake. It was certain that there would be heavy rain in 3 days. This made Gil Nam extremely worried, because heavy rain would cause the mines to be washed away in different places. The path he had worked so hard to mark would be destroyed. At this moment, an explosion rang out. When Gil Nam arrived, he saw a wild boar that had been hit by a bomb. He brought it home to cook for dinner. At this time, someone said that after Gil Nam was discharged, he should continue to stay in the army. If he went out, he would only be able to do hard work because he came from a poor peasant family. This was like a slap in the face to Gil Nam, but it was the truth anyway, so it motivated Gil Nam to leave the country. Just as everyone was about to enjoy the roast pig, his superiors were suddenly standing nearby. Gilnam explained that the soldiers had not eaten any meat for half a year, so he went into the minefield to get some meat. But his superiors insisted that Gilnam would be severely disciplined because he had led his comrades into the dangerous area without permission. The pig would be distributed to the others. Immediately after, the superiors confiscated the pig to hold a party. While they weren't paying attention, Gilnam quickly stole a few pieces of meat to share with his teammates. Although he was drooling, he couldn't bear to eat any of it. That day, when Gilnam was assigned to patrol near the barbed wire fence, the radio suddenly picked up a radio signal from South Korea. This made Gilnam very happy because he felt freedom somewhere around here. So Gilnam planned that if he didn't have to go on guard tomorrow night, he would immediately take action. However, Dong-Yuk appeared and asked, "Are you going to escape to South Korea?" This question made Gilnam speechless, because if this was exposed, he would be shot. Gilnam immediately denied it, but Dong-Yuk told him exactly what he had planned. Dong-Yuk even found out about Gilnam's fear of the rain. Gilnam knew that his plan had been exposed. Gilnam pushed him straight against the wall and told Dong-Yuk to pretend he didn't know anything, because Gilnam would kill anyone who got in his way. However, Dong-Yuk begged him to let him go with him. His mother and sister were in Korea. They were waiting for Dong-Yuk to come over to reunite. Gilnam slapped him so hard that his notebook and family photo fell out. Gilnam told Dong-Yuk to pretend he didn't know anything and stop talking nonsense. On the way back, Gilnam gave Dong-Yuk the radio and said that it was the last gift he would give Song-Yuk. Gilnam was worried that Dong-Yuk would do something stupid, so he had to wait until Dong-Yuk was fast asleep before he could sleep peacefully. But unexpectedly at midnight, a siren suddenly sounded. There was a deserter. Gilnam looked over and saw Dong-Yuk disappear. After everyone got their weapons and lined up to search, Gilnam decided to run back. He quickly went through the old forest to the kitchen. When he opened the ventilation duct, he discovered that the compass and map had disappeared. In an emergency, Gilnam rushed to the barbed wire fence and saw Dong-Yuk struggling there. It turned out that Dong-Yuk had not yet found a hole to crawl through. Gilnam advised Dong-Yuk to go back first because there was not enough time to escape tonight. But Dong-Yuk did not believe him and still went back to dig a hole. Suddenly, he was electrocuted by the barbed wire fence. The necklace he intended to give his mother also fell to the ground. Gilnam ran over and was threatened by Dong-Yuk with a gun. Gilnam tried to persuade Dong-Yuk to go back. Gilnam had already thought of a reason for Dong-Yuk not to be punished. Dong-Yuk heard Gilnam's words and thought they were reasonable, so he put down the gun. When Dong-Yuk was about to return the map and compass to Gilnam, a light suddenly appeared. It turned out that the platoon leader and the others had come here. At this time, Gilnam immediately explained that Dong-Yuk had a stomachache, so he went out. However, the platoon leader still did not believe it and rushed over to slap Gilnam, causing him to faint. After this incident, Gilnam was brutally tortured because of the map with Gilnam's name on it. The platoon leader knew clearly who the mastermind was. However, the two still did not reveal anything. After Dong-Yuk was threatened that he would be shot if he did not reveal it, he admitted that the map was his. This made Gilnam extremely surprised. However, the platoon leader still did not believe it. He thought Dong-Yuk was a liar. At this moment, a new soldier came to report bad news. Major Chin-Ho, the head of the Army Security Department, came here to see how the desertion situation was. Although Chin-Ho was a person of high rank and authority, he was a third gender. This surprised everyone. When Chin-Ho nodded, the platoon leader immediately reported that this map proved that Gilnam and Dong-Yuk had planned to escape a long time ago. Therefore, it was necessary to deal with him severely to set an example for others. However, Chun-Ho stood up and replied that Dong-Yuk had confessed to his map, so Gilnam should be a hero. This made everyone confused. No one dared to say anything. Then Chun-Ho asked everyone to take out paper and pen to write that. Gilnam discovered Dong-Yuk was escaping and tried to stop him. Therefore, Chun-Ho decided to award the title of hero to Gilnam. As for Dong-Yuk, he would be taken to the division's detention camp to await trial. Immediately after, Gilnam was allowed to take a shower to receive his reward. On the way to the division's hall, 3 cars suddenly stopped. Chun-Ho got out of the car and waited for everyone to leave. Then, Chun-Ho approached and told Gilnam that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. It turned out that the two had known each other before. Chun-Ho said that since Gilnam's father stopped driving for his father, they had not seen each other again. When Chun-Ho received the news that Gilnam had persuaded his comrades to desert, he took the initiative to come here. Seeing Gilnam like this, Chun-Ho felt even more sorry for Gilnam. It turned out that because Chun-Ho was a third gender, he had liked Gilnam since he was a child. After Chun-Ho went to the restroom on the side of the road, he got back in the car. Chun-Ho applied sunscreen and continued to say that Gilnam would meet the division commander later. He was also Chunho's father-in-law, so Gilnam had to do something to impress him. When he arrived, Gilnam attended a solemn ceremony for the first time. There were many high-ranking generals in the army. This made him nervous. Then Chunho announced that there was an extremely brave soldier who had foiled the desertion plot. That person was Sergeant Gilnam. After Gilnam stepped up to the podium, he proudly returned the salute and said that his achievement was entirely thanks to the division commander's leadership. This statement surprised everyone. They immediately clapped their hands like firecrackers. After the ceremony to award the hero badge to Gilnam was the gala. Although Chunho was dancing with his wife, he noticed another young master named Song Khan. It turned out that the two of them used to be piano players, and they had secretly loved each other before. However, Chunho's father was a general with a very high honor. His father did not allow he to marry a person of the same sex. Therefore, Chunho had to hide his true gender. He married the division commander's daughter to deceive everyone. After that, everyone sat at the dining table. Although Gilnam was a hero, he was only considered a waiter. Besides, Gilnam kept looking at his watch, because Gilnam wanted to quickly return to rescue Dong Uk, and then the two of them would continue to carry out the escape plan. Chunho realized that something seemed to be wrong with Gilnam. Chunho immediately went out and asked why Gilnam was so restless. Gilnam said that he wanted to return to his unit, but Chunho said that Gilnam did not need to go anywhere because he had become the division commander's assistant. This news left Gilnam speechless because he did not want to stay in the army or this country. Gilnam immediately ran out to stop Chunho and said that he was about to be discharged and did not want to stay here. But Chunho did not pay attention to that. Chunho advised Gilnam to follow his arrangement because that was the brightest future for Gilnam. Then Chunho left, so now Gilnam had to improvise. When Gilnam went into the room to do the paperwork, he accidentally saw a file of papers in the drawer to enter the military area. Taking advantage of the opportunity, when his teammates went into the division commander's room, Gilnam used a knife to cut his portrait in the photo that had just been taken. Then he pasted it on the pass and filled in his name. To get the national emblem, he pressed the pass into the newly stamped decision, but that did not bring the expected effect. So Gilnam had to jump out the window and go back to the division commander's room. Then he unlocked the drawer to get the stamp. If Gilnam wanted to escape from this place, he would have to steal a car. Otherwise, if he walked, he would not know when he would get back to his unit. Luckily, Gilnam saw a car. Although it was old, it had a key inside. At that moment, Gilnam had an idea. He saw that the division commander was drunk, so Gilnam immediately helped him out. Then Gilnam put the division commander in the car. Gilnam wanted to use him to get out of this place. However, when the car just reached the gate, the division commander suddenly woke up. Luckily, he only asked for water. Just as Gilnam handed the division commander a bottle of water, the guards at the gate also looked into the car, but they immediately had to salute urgently. Thanks to that, Gilnam successfully passed through the gate. Then he left the division commander in the middle of the dry field. Then Gilnam quickly went to the detention camp to rescue Dong Uk, but suddenly the car ran out of gas. In addition, the three cars in front saw Gilnam as suspicious and stopped. With 10 years of experience in the army, Gilnam recognized this as the car of the division detention camp. He had a premonition that something bad was happening, so he had to use a plan. Gilnam took the initiative to get out of the car and said he wanted some gas. The man asked who he was. Gilnam immediately took out his pass and introduced himself as the assistant of the division commander. Suddenly, the prison warden appeared. He looked at Gilnam suspiciously because he had never seen Gilnam before. The prison warden then called the division headquarters to investigate and was told that Gilnam was the newly appointed person. However, the prison warden was still suspicious. He asked why no superiors were with Gilnam. Gilnam quickly replied that he was sent by the security department. He had to go to the prison warden to investigate the crime. Gilnam also threatened to report to Chunho that the prison warden was deliberately obstructing people on duty. After saying that, Gilnam put on the glasses that the division commander had left in the car. Thanks to that confident demeanor, Gilnam was allowed to leave by the prison warden. Immediately after, Gilnam returned to prepare to rescue Dong Uk. Because Dong Uk had been locked up for many days, he was so scared that he spoke nonsense. Outside, even though Gilnam's car was filled with gas, it still couldn't run. It turned out that this was a diesel-powered car. After signing the handover minutes of the map, compass, and other items, the warden said that Gilnam did not even know whether it was a gasoline or diesel truck, so he could not be a member of the security department. Gilnam was afraid that he had been exposed, so he intended to snatch the prison warden's gun. But unexpectedly, the warden was faster. He slapped the warden and confirmed that Gilnam was the assistant of the division commander. Because he had just just received the mission, he was somewhat confused. Gilnam thought that the danger had passed. However, the warden still did not let go. He discovered that Gilnam's signature was identical to the handwriting on the map. Therefore, the warden suggested that the prison warden let him and a soldier go with Gilnam to escort the criminals. At this time, Gilnam could not refuse. He only had to escape from this place and find another way. When he got closer to the unit, Gilnam would attack these two men to take action. Inside the division's hall, Songkong said that Chunho was also very talented at playing the guitar. Hearing that, a lady said, "You won't mind treating us to a song, right?" Chunho knew that this was a provocation from his ex-lover, but he couldn't refuse and immediately showed off his talent. The notes coming from his fingers made everyone admire him. Outside, the prison guard called a person he knew, Tae Gon. This person was Chunho's subordinate. The prison guard called him to verify Gilnam's identity. The prison guard gave him the phone and said, "You just need to say who your superior is." Reluctantly, Gilnam picked up the phone and shouted, "Hurry up and give the phone to Chunho. He's busy at a party, but you keep bothering him. Don't you know the relationship between me and him? When I come back, I'll deal with you." The prison guard and Tae Gon were a bit worried after hearing that. Meanwhile, Chunho was playing the piano and thinking about the person he loved. Suddenly, he received bad news. Gilnam quickly grabbed the phone and told Chunho that he was on a mission, but someone kept bothering him. After saying that, Gilnam stopped the car to talk privately. Chunho told Gilnam to come back quickly and he would get a reduced sentence, but Gilnam said that he wanted to decide his own future. Gilnam then hung up, but he did not know that the prison guard was standing behind him and knew everything. As soon as Gilnam got in the car, the prison guard ordered the driver to take everyone back to the prison. Gilnam tried to steal the driver's gun, but he was one step slower than the prison guard. Because Chunho couldn't catch Gilnam, he also had the heart to kill the prison guard. At this time, the division commander called to scold Chunho. Under the pressure of the division commander, he promised to handle this matter today. On the other side, Gilnam woke up after drifting to the shore. Fortunately, Dong Uk was also safe and sound. However, a gunman suddenly appeared. The two of them immediately retreated into the grass to hide, but soon after, they were controlled. Unexpectedly, this was an army of women. After Gilnam declared that they were the division commander's assistants, the female general ordered to shoot immediately. Luckily, Dong Uk quickly said that they were deserters from the military prison. The female general ordered to stop and asked if there was anyone named Sang-gu in the prison. Dong Uk felt confused after hearing this. Because he had only been in the prison for 2 days, he did not know anyone. A girl thought Dong Uk was lying, so she intended to take action. But Dong Uk then told her that there was a boy in the prison who cried all day long, saying he missed his sister. When the girls received this news, they could not hide their joy, because they knew that their younger brother was still alive. After that, Dong Uk and Gilnam were taken into the deep forest by the T gang. When they talked, they learned that the gang's tribe had been destroyed by the North Korean army. They had to wander everywhere. Currently, they were waiting for the opportunity to rescue Sang-gu. Gilnam also told them everything. Dong-uk immediately recreated the division's prison map to help the gang plan a prison break. At this time, Chunho was also present. He realized that the west direction was the most suspicious. Therefore, he ordered Taegon to lead a company to this place. When the gang received the intelligence, they, along with Gilnam and Dong-uk, entered the deep forest. Because Chunho had better hearing than the police dogs, when he heard the sound of water dripping into the gun through Taegon's radio, he immediately realized that there was someone above. Immediately after, Chunho ordered everyone to change direction, and then he divided the combat force to go up. In the dangerous situation, suddenly a boy stepped on a dry branch. Everyone tried to stay calm and silent, but a soldier felt suspicious that someone was hiding behind a rock. So all the soldiers approached. Everyone had to be ready to fight. In the last seconds before the confrontation, Chunho had predicted the situation, so he ordered everyone to stop shooting and go hunting. On the other side, the female general was planning to take the gang away, but she couldn't bear to see Gil Nam and Dong Yuk killed. The soldiers didn't know about the gang's existence here, so Taegon thought it was Gil Nam. Taegon immediately ordered everyone to change direction. Chunho saw that his troops had acted on their own, so he asked everyone to return to their original positions. Since the two deserters were seriously injured, they wouldn't be able to go far. Someone must have helped them. However, after the soldiers turned back, Gil Nam and Dong Uk had gone in another direction. While Chunho was listening to music, Song Kang, called Song Kang, told Chunho to go back to being a musician. He was not suited to be a soldier. Chunho was depressed, so he hung up. When Taegon led the army back, Chunho beat him up very painfully. On this side, Dong Uk seemed exhausted. Gil Nam encouraged Dong Uk that they had to quickly go to the cafeteria. Then, they crawled through the barbed wire to get out of the military boundary. After going to Korea, Dong Uk would be reunited with his family. Then he would live a free life. As Dong Uk predicted, it started to rain like a little water. However, both of them returned to the base and immediately moved to the kitchen, but Dong Uk suddenly slipped and fell into the backyard of a barracks. While all the soldiers were surprised and did not know who this was, suddenly there was an order to assemble. At this time, the platoon leader was about to come. Dong Uk thought his life was about to end, but suddenly Gil Nam appeared and put a hat on his head. Immediately after, both of them immediately joined the ranks of this army. It turned out that Chunho had predicted Gil Nam's plot. Chunho knew that Gil Nam would crawl through the barbed wire to escape, so he gathered all the most elite soldiers here to capture him. After the soldiers received the order, everyone dispersed to carry out the mission. Meanwhile, Gil Nam and Dong Uk turned to continue to the kitchen. When they got inside, the kitchen was completely empty because Gil Nam and Dong Uk had quickly crawled through the ventilation duct. When Chunho looked at the map, he guessed where the two were going, so he immediately chased after them. At the barbed wire fence, Gil Nam quickly crawled through the tunnel of dry leaves. But when Gil Nam turned back, he couldn't see Dong Uk. It turned out that Dong Uk was trying to find the necklace he had dropped earlier. At this time, Chunho had also arrived. He went into a hut to personally deal with the two deserters. At the same time, all the high-pressure lights were turned on. Gil Nam and Dong Uk had to hide immediately to avoid being detected. When Dong Uk saw the necklace, he had already run out and was detected. Chunho had aimed in advance, so he pulled the trigger and shot Dong Uk straight in the back. Gil Nam immediately took his gun and rushed to rescue Dong Uk. When the light continued to shine on the old position, Gil Nam managed to carry Dong Uk up through the barbed wire fence. However, Dong Uk knew he could not survive, so he asked Gil Nam to give this necklace to his mother on his birthday. Dong Uk asked Gil Nam to tell his mother that her son was still alive and well. Before Gil Nam could react, it was too late. Dong Uk had forever lain there, leaving behind his unfinished dream. Gil Nam painfully took the necklace to fulfill Dong Uk's wish. When Chunho was about to fire the next shot, Gil Nam took the AK gun and shot all the high-pressure lamps. This made Chunho extremely surprised. Thanks to the fire coming from the muzzle, Chunho was able to determine the opponent's position. When Chunho was about to attack a second time, Gil Nam turned back to counterattack. Unfortunately, he ran out of bullets, so his gun was hit. Although Gil Nam was fine, the compass had been shot and broken by Chunho at some point. Without it, Gil Nam could not have reached the minefield area. Because there were only trees and grass around, there was nothing large to guide the way. At this moment, the radio emitted a signal from the Korean radio station. Gil Nam knew that the sound would be clearer near the broadcasting station, so he determined the direction in this way. Very quickly, he arrived at the minefield area. However, after the heavy rain, everything returned turned to zero. If Gilnam turned back, he would certainly die. And if he continued, the risk of being blown to death was also very high. But Gilnam decided to risk running over. At this time, Chunho also led a group of people to come. He and the soldiers fired bullets at Gilnam. However, because the distance was too far, it was difficult for Chunho's team to hit the target. Chunho intended to chase after him, but one of his subordinates had died. This made him scared, so he had to find another way. On the other side, Gilnam ran with all his might and was lucky to survive the minefield. Following the rising sun, he felt more hopeful and determined. However, when Gilnam was about to cross a puddle, he suddenly realized it was a swamp. He tried to move quickly to reach for a tree branch, but because the distance was too far, Gilnam sank down without realizing it. It seemed like everything was hopeless, but Gilnam suddenly raised his head and grabbed the tree branch. Then he crawled to the other side. He washed his face and limbs, and then went to the military demarcation line. When Gilnam saw the Korean soldiers, he was about to shout for help, but at this moment, he stepped on a mine. Even worse, Chunho suddenly appeared. Gilnam grabbed him by the neck and asked him to give him the gun, and Gilnam would let go. Otherwise, both of them would fly into the sky, because Gilnam's feet were on a mine. Chunho told Gilnam not to hope in South Korea, because the people there were not kind to North Koreans. Gilnam knew that, but at least there he had hoped to change his life. Here he would forever live in the dark and be controlled by the country. Gilnam longed to live for his dream, even just once, so he would try his fate. Then Gilnam lifted his foot, and luckily the mine was deactivated. Gilnam knew Chunho also had a dream of becoming a musician, so Gilnam advised Chunho to try to fight for himself. Thinking that Chunho would forgive Gilnam, Chunho suddenly pointed a gun at him. While the two struggled, Gilnam knocked Chunho's gun away. Chunho tried to punch Gilnam in the face, but with just one punch, Gilnam made Chunho fall. Taking this opportunity, Gilnam quickly ran towards the border. When he got there, he took out his phone and called for help. But unexpectedly, the rain last night had lost the phone signal. When Gilnam was about to run through the tunnel, Chunho was chasing him from behind. At this time, Gilnam had no other choice, so he decided to take a risk. He was shot in the leg and fell to the ground in pain. However, Gilnam still tried to get up and then crawled back to the tunnel. Even so, Chunho continued to shoot to take Gilnam's life. When Gilnam was about to touch the boundary line, he was shot in the back. However, he still tried to fulfill his dream of setting foot in Korea. Chunho approached to send Gilnam away, but Chunho hesitated a bit and did not dare to pull the trigger. Chunho realized that his skills were much weaker than Gilnam's. However, when Chunho was about to take action, suddenly a group of soldiers came to threaten him. They warned Chunho not to shoot in this area, so Chunho had no choice but to leave. Then they asked Gilnam if he wanted to surrender to Korea. He immediately agreed without hesitation. Gilnam was finally successful. A year later, under the Korean government's policy, Gilnam recovered from his injuries and began applying for jobs. However, he had another mission: to bring the necklace to Dongyuk's mother. On her birthday, Gilnam brought the necklace and told her that Dongyuk was doing well and would soon be able to come here to reunite. Gilnam did not dare to tell the truth because he was afraid that it would be too much of a shock for Dongyuk's mother. In the atmosphere of freedom, Gilnam suddenly received news that he was accepted into a company specializing in exploring world wonders. Finally, the arduous path he had chosen was successful. On the other side, when Chunho looked at Gilnam's exploration book, he saw a line: "A meaningless life is scarier than death." This made him smile and know what he needed to do next. Today's movie ended here. See you in the next videos.